Hey, good morning, guys. So in this video, I want to talk about the number one mistake that I see people make when they go out and test and compare radar detectors, and specifically when they're out doing long-range radar detector testing, kind of your standard test where you've got a radar gun on one end of the course, and then you just drive towards the radar gun, try a couple different detectors, and see which one goes off first, which one gives you the most advanced warning, right? Now, let's say you've got two different radar detectors, and you want to see which one is more sensitive. The easiest thing to do is to take both radar detectors, put them up in the windshield at the same time, and then just start driving towards the radar source and see which detector goes off first. The one that goes off first wins, right? Now, the issue with doing this, if you do this, your results are actually going to be completely invalid. There's actually a really big problem with running two detectors at the same time, and this is actually the biggest mistake that people make, and not everybody realizes what's going on here. And so I want to go ahead and talk about this, so when you're doing your own testing, you can make sure that you do it correctly, and if you see other people's videos, you know that their results are, quite frankly, useless. So what's the issue here with running two detectors at the same time? Well, I'll give you a hint. Why does this guy work? This is the Spectre Elite radar detector detector. This is a device that police officers use. They put it up on their windshield and they can detect radar detectors from hundreds of feet away out in other people's vehicles. Why does this work? Well, it's because of the fact that radar detectors not only detect radar, but they also emit radar. And that's what a radar detector is looking for. It's looking for the emissions or the leakage coming out of other radar detectors. Now, usually these kind of emissions you're not going to notice. You're not going to see them in practice. If you're in an area where detectors are illegal, cops could find you that way with an RDD. One classic example of when it actually does come up in real life is when other people around you are driving around with kind of cheap Cobra radar detectors. Unfortunately, the frequencies of the radar emissions that they leak happen to cause false alerts on Ka band to other radar detectors nearby, and it's why a lot of the nicer radar detectors have filters on Ka band. It's because of the emissions. Now, some of the nicer detectors are not going to cause false Ka alerts on other nearby detectors, but that doesn't mean that they don't leak. They're still detectable by RDDs. Now, let's say you want to do a radar detector test, and you have two radar detectors side by side. What is a radar detector testing in this situation? Long-range testing. It's testing the sensitivity, and it's basically saying, hey, radar detector, you want to detect a very weak signal very far away. I want to see which detector is more sensitive. However, if you're running two radar detectors that are emitting radar, they're basically creating a lot of noise in the area that's going to make it a lot tougher for a radar detector that's sitting right next to it to pick up a really faint, quiet, distant signal. So if you do this, you're going to wind up seeing issues like reduced detection range because the detector's struggling to see that signal or to hear it off at a distance because the detector sitting right next to it is so noisy. So if you're looking to see which detector has the longest range and then you put another detector right next to it, all of a sudden now you are reducing the range of the detector because you are raising the noise floor, which is going to virtually invalidate your results. There's a number of other issues as well. Hidden Cam actually had a really interesting one. He did a test the other day, and he was testing the Uniden R3 and the Beltronics Magnum, and he was getting his test course set up. He had his radar gun set up, and he just wanted to run the course and see if it was a good course. So he had both detectors mounted on his windshield and just drove towards the source. Now, what was interesting was, the Uniden went off, the Magnum was silent. He drove all the way down the entire length of the test course, never got a single alert from the Magnum. The Uniden actually put the Magnum to sleep completely. He drove all the way up and parked right next to the radar gun. The Magnum was dead silent. Went through the settings. Is radar detection even still enabled? It was. Unplugged the Magnum, plugged it back in, let it power cycle, boom, full strength, immediate alert coming out of the Magnum. The Uniden sitting right next to it had actually completely put it to sleep. Now imagine using these results as a way to say which detector is better and gives you the longest range. Completely worthless results from a testing standpoint, right? Now this is an extreme example. Usually you're not going to be getting a detector completely put to sleep, but you will see reduced range and you will see a detector missing alerts quite a bit. Even when it's like brief alerts or quick trigger, there's a very likely possibility that a detector is going to be missing alerts completely. Now, not every detector is going to be emitting a lot of radar. There's some detectors that are kind of stealth to the Spectre Elite. What about those? Well, let's take the Uniden DFR7, for example. With that detector, you could drive right past an officer running a Spectre, and the Spectre is not going to go off. However, you take that same detector and put it on the windshield right next to the Spectre, and the Spectre is going to be going crazy. Putting the detector right next to another detector, very different than driving past it. What about a more extreme situation? Let's take the ultimate stealthy detectors, the Escort Redline and the Beltronics Magnum. You can take those two detectors and put them side by side, and even with those detectors, if you start waiting, you'll see that one detector is going to start falsing the other detector. So you're going to see they're actually going to start interfering with each other. Actually, let me go ahead and show you. I've got two different detectors. I've got the Max 360 here, and I've got the unit in R3. We'll go ahead and just plug in this guy, turn it on. And the easiest way to show you is I'll just take both detectors and I'll put them in nose to nose like this. And within a couple seconds or so, you're going to see they're going to start to false each other. Right on cue, there we go. So as you can see, this guy is falsing to this one. So you've got a number of issues when you've got radar detectors really close. You've got reduced range, which kind of defeats the purpose of long-range testing. You have the possibility where it's going to be missing alerts, potentially even completely. And then you've also got false alerts, which are being introduced by running two detectors side by side. So if you're wanting to do radar detector testing, this is a terrible way to do it. It sounds kind of counterintuitive. I mean, you would think the most obvious way of testing radar detectors is just put both up on the windshield at the same time, drive towards a radar source, and see which one goes off first, right? Unfortunately, this is a terrible idea, and you really, really shouldn't do it. Escort on their website, they even talk about this specifically. And let me read you something real quick. They say that the next time that you see a side-by-side radar detector review, you will know that the reviewer knows little to nothing about radar technology and that their results are worthless. Now that's a little blunt, but it's totally accurate. If you're running two radar detectors side by side, the interference between the two detectors is going to totally invalidate the results. So if you're wanting to do radar detector testing, make sure you're running just one detector at a time. If you're watching a YouTube video and you see people, running two detectors on a time, now you know that those results are going to be completely worthless, quite frankly. Now, if you're wanting to know about proper radar detector testing methodology, I put together a really comprehensive article on my website. The link is in the video description. You can take a look at that. And it goes over a lot of detail about how to properly conduct a radar detector test, do's and don'ts, tips and tricks, all that kind of stuff. Now, as far as interference, we can go into even more detail. We can talk about what happens if maybe you place radar detectors on opposite ends of the windshield, or you have one windshield mount and one remote mount detector, or how some radar detectors actually play better together than others. Some really don't play well together. We can go into a lot more detail, but specifically when it comes to testing, you want to make sure you're getting rid of every other variable besides the radar detector sensitivity when it comes to long-range detection. So you're really testing the sensitivity, you're not introducing any other uncontrolled variables, right? So when it comes to proper radar detector testing methodology, make sure that you're testing just one radar detector at a time. So anyway, I hope this has been helpful for you guys. Let me know if you have any questions. Again, link in the video description for more information about proper testing methodology. And also if you want to see Hidden Cam's video where one detector completely puts another one to sleep, that's down there as well. So anyways, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.